Hey, what's up everybody? So today we are going to work on some plumbing. So I finally got some of the stuff set up. So I'm going to walk you through first what my plan is, what I'm going to do, and then I will let you know. We'll do maybe some time lapse and see some of this go together. So let's flip this camera around and show you some of it. Okay, for starters, we've got a 20-gallon tank here. You notice I've got a couple fittings in here already. Just one at the top here and then one down the bottom. I'm actually going to pull those out. I was just dry fitting them. Need to get some plumber's tape on them. And then you see the top one sticking out. That's actually for the gravity fill. The doors actually come over here and sit right about here. So just below where this bed mount is. If you notice, that's dead in line pretty much with where the front of the bed is. So I'll be able to have the wall, actually a little viewing panel to see how much water I have in it from there. So from there, I'm going to come out this bottom supply. It's going to come across underneath the intake for the heater, take a 90 up, and then the 90 into my pre-filter that'll go into my pump. This is a 12 volt 70 psi pump. It's probably way more psi than I need. I may actually tune it down. It just happened to be I was able to pick one up for a good price, so we went with that. Then I'm going to come into another elbow right here. If you notice, what I'm using are all these shark bite connections. So I'm going to do this with as much PEX as possible with the shark bite. I just think they're a lot easier to work with, and they'll be faster. So I'm going to come out that 90 into a T that's going to go to a drain valve. That's actually just going to have a little drain down into the wheel well, so that I can, if I need an emergency drain or I'm trying to drain it for the winter or whatever, I can put someplace and just drain the fresh water out. It'll just go over the tire, no big deal. So from there, we come across to another turn. This is going to come down to a few T's that you see here. So this first one here is going to be cold water up to the sink that's going to be right above it. Then the next one, she comes off to go into this barb connection. So it'll be shark bite to barb. The barb will come into my heat exchanger. This is with my hot water system. I'll go into the hot water system in a moment. But to finish up the cold, it's going to come across to this T here. And then you notice I've got two different elbows off of that. One of them is going to come up to the back of the Tertavan shower. The other is going to go to my outside shower that's going to be sitting right there. It'll be just on the outside here by where the steps are to get to the outdoor shower. So the hot water system, if you notice, I've got my diesel heater right there. Everything will be plumbed underneath. That actually will exhaust out underneath. The fuel line is under, although it's going to come across from underneath. And the diesel tank's going to sit on the other side of the fridge over here. So the diesel tank is going to sit right here under my actuators. So I know you haven't seen that video yet, but the actuators, I'll get to that one in another setup. They're not quite ready yet. So the diesel heater then comes across into the splitter here. This will go into the cabin, then or come out and come into this heat exchanger. So that's part of the Bobil Van's kit. This is actually their new smart controller. So we'll wire that up probably another day, but just get to the plumbing of it first. Now we come into the heat exchanger in the one side, out the other. The other will then come into the inlet of the 10-gallon tank that also has the electric heating element in it also. Coming off of the hot, I'm going to go back to PEX, come down, make a turn. Coming across, there's a splitter here. This is actually going to go to another barb that goes to the small pump that just gives an accumulator and kind of circulates the hot water in the system to keep it moving there. And then it will come across to another, actually those will probably be flipped because I'll come into the splitter and come one up to the outside, and then one will come up to the Tertavan. So that's going to be the setup. So why don't I get the camera on the tripod and we'll get to putting some stuff together. So quick thing to note when you're working with, if you're going to use the plumber's tape on fittings on the pump, make sure you don't run it over the edge because you don't want to get sucked into the pump. And also, you obviously want to tighten it down, but these are plastic fittings, so you don't want to go too tight or else you can end up cracking or stripping the fittings, especially if you're doing metal onto the plastic. So one of the things to watch out for with these brass fittings, you notice, like, that's a pretty strong thread. So if you're going onto plastic or like going into the tank, so when I'm gonna do the same thing over on the tank here in a minute, make sure you're careful when you really get catch the right thread. You don't want to strip some very expensive tanks. So here we go, back to some building. So one thing to note when you're doing these fittings, make sure you're doing the plumbing tape in the direction that you're screwing in. You want to tighten as you're going, otherwise the tape just comes off and it becomes pointless. So go ahead and get it in nice and tight. Here, this is going to be if I have a pressure fill, like a city fill. Right now I'm not going to be using that, but I may end up adding that in later. It's a pretty easy thing to add in. What I'll basically do is add another one of these NPT. These are 1/2 inch NPT to shark bite. So what I'll do is I'll just add that and a couple elbows. I'll bring it out to a door. I may do a combo door on the outside. I haven't quite decided yet. And then you notice here is the gravity fill. I don't need a cover on it quite yet. I actually have a hose that's already going to go to that, so I won't need to put a cover on it. So let me go ahead and get some taping done. I don't think y'all want to watch me just tape a bunch of ends here, and then I'll come back and we'll start cutting some pegs. So before we get into actually putting some of this PEX together, I want to walk you through some of the tools I picked up. So I'll start with this one. So this is actually a depth gauge for the shark bite. So what I would do is I take a length of PEX, put it in all the way in the right spot. So I'm using 1/2 inch. I mark it all the way around. Now I get a line to know that I've got it inserted fully into the shark bite piece here. So that's one. Next, talk about is I've got these cutters. So careful with these because they are, to say that they are sharp is an understatement. So they actually ratchet. So you kind of put it in there and then just ratchet it down to chop the pecs. And then this is actually a shark bite release tool. So the way this works is you actually just put it around the edge here. When you've got a piece of line in, you squeeze it, it actually pushes this piece back to release the line. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on the tripod and start putting some line together. I think I forgot to mention the other thing you do is when you put this in here, when you spin this, it actually makes sure you deburr the base so you get a really nice clean edge when you're using this tool. So that pretty much sums up getting from the tank through the pump. Now I got to get all the other parts over at the hot water setup. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then once I'm done, I'll come back and I'll walk you through it. But honestly, it's kind of tedious and it's going to be a pain to video. So I will get it done, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, well, welcome back again. I left off with finishing up the filter. So what I've done now is I've ran a whole bunch of PEX over here. So let me walk you through it again. You can see what I've got here. I've actually got my drain there. That'll go out for a main drain. It's at the lowest point I could come up with. So this next line is actually going to go into the recirculating. I'm missing one Y. I gotta go pick that up today. Once I have that'll be done for the hot water. There's actually going to be, that'll go to here also. This is where the vent hose goes over top of all this, but if I put that in, you wouldn't be able to see this. So lots of connections. The shower is all hooked up and ready. Then come back here. I come off of the heat exchanger. That's going into the hot water. From the hot water over into the accumulator, and then also to start my hot water system. There's my hookups for the outdoor shower that's right there, but obviously that's not mounted yet, so I don't want to cut the PEX. That comes across to the hot water for the shower, making a return, and hot water and cold water right there for the sink. So the plumbing is pretty much done, just a couple little pieces. And once the sink goes in and I finalize the mount on the outdoor shower, that will be ready to go. So I'm pretty excited. It feels like I got some good progress. So I'm gonna call that for the video for today. And maybe next time we'll do some wrap up on some of the other parts, as well as maybe some electrical.